The sinking of the Costa Concordia was one of the most horrific disasters in recent history. However, there are many details about this disaster that the general public never knew, and many people forget. Today we will go over the top 10 shocking revelations about the Costa Concordia disaster that you never knew. Let's get started. Number 10. It wasn't the first time that he had crashed a ship. This revelation was only revealed years after the disaster, but it turns out that Captain Shedano was actually responsible for another near accident before. On March 2009, he was piloting a different cruise ship when he suddenly slammed into an island off the coast of Croatia. He claimed that he didn't see the rocks because the sun was blinding him, which caused the ship to crash into the rocks. The owner of the cruise line decided not to report this incident to the authorities or the Maritime Commission, so it remained under wraps until several years later when newspapers began reporting on it. No, 9, there was a cover-up. After the initial chaos of the sinking subsided, it was time for the salvage operation to begin. An agreement was reached between the company who owned the cruise liner and the Italian government, whereby the company would pay $37 million to remove the wreck, as well as compensate those who were affected by the sinking. In exchange, they would be given immunity from any further prosecution. Now, while this deal seemed like a fair one at the time, it was later found to be highly unfair. A new investigation revealed that Costa Concordia, the owners of the cruise liner, had actually hid a number of details about the ship's operations at the time of the sinking. For example, they didn't tell the investigators about the captain's previous accident, nor did they inform them that the ship had been sailing with a broken alarm system. This revelation came as quite a shock to many people, as it seemed as though the company was trying to hide something. Number 8. Passengers were trapped due to locked doors. Many passengers were unable to escape the sinking vessel because the cabin doors were locked. They were automatically locked when the ship started tilting, which made it impossible for people to evacuate through their cabins. Moreover, the crew failed to open the doors manually, which could have saved many lives. One survivor even reported seeing crew members walking past passengers who were desperately knocking on their doors for help. The cruise line defended itself by saying that the doors were locked to keep people inside during the evacuation, so they wouldn't wander around the deck and panic and fall. But this doesn't explain why the crew didn't manually open the doors. Number 7. The lifeboats were canceled. Lifeboats were scheduled to arrive at the scene at the same time that the cruise liner began to sink. However, for unknown reasons, the lifeboat services were canceled at the last minute. This meant that when the passengers finally got off the ship, they had to wait in the freezing cold water for hours until they were rescued. This resulted in many people suffering from hypothermia and other injuries. The cancellation of the lifeboats is still a mystery, and nobody knows why it was done. Some believe that it was done to save money, while others think that it was a mistake. Whatever the reason, it had disastrous consequences for many of the passengers. No. 6. There was no overall emergency plan. During the chaos of the evacuation, many passengers were confused and didn't know what to do. This was because the crew had failed to develop an overall emergency plan. The crew was supposed to sound the general alarm once the ship began to sink, but they didn't do this until 45 minutes after the ship hit the rocks. This gave the passengers very little time to react, and many of them were caught off guard. Additionally, the crew was also unprepared to deal with the situation, and there was no clear chain of command. This led to confusion and panic among the passengers as they tried to figure out what to do next. Ultimately, the lack of an emergency plan by the crew contributed to the severity of the disaster. No. 5. A nearby ship could have easily saved many people. The captain of the nearby ship saw the flares and fireworks that were being set off by the passengers on the Costa Concordia, but he assumed these were part of a New Year's Eve celebration. It wasn't until the next morning that he realized that they were SOS signals. If he had realized what they were, he could have easily saved many of the passengers who were stranded in the freezing cold water. This tragic mistake highlights the importance of being aware of your surroundings at all times. Even something as simple as fireworks can have deadly consequences if not properly identified. Number 4. Drunk passengers. Surprisingly, many of the passengers on board the Costa Concordia were drunk during the sinking. This may come as a shock, but it's true. Many of them had consumed a lot of alcohol before boarding the ship and continued drinking throughout the night. This made it difficult for them to react properly when the ship began to sink. Some of them were too drunk to understand what was happening, while others were too drunk to evacuate the ship in a timely manner. This is especially surprising considering that the cruise line had advertised the evening as a fun and festive New Year's Eve celebration. It's disappointing that some passengers chose to drink excessively, which put themselves and others at risk. No. Point 3. Crew abandoned ship. It's hard to believe, but many crew members simply abandoned ship as soon as they realized that it was sinking. They left the passengers to fend for themselves without any assistance. Some of them even admitted that they were scared and didn't think about helping the passengers. This is truly shocking and appalling behavior, especially considering that they had taken an oath to protect and assist passengers in times of need. It's hard to imagine how anyone could be so heartless and selfish. Number 2. The band played on. As the ship began to sink, the band on board the Costa Concordia continued playing music to keep the atmosphere lighthearted. They played popular songs such as My Heart Will Go On from Titanic and Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFerrin. While their intentions were good, this actually ended up causing more panic among the passengers. Many people were confused as to why the crew was playing music when the ship was in danger. This caused many passengers to try and evacuate the ship, which ultimately led to more chaos and confusion. Number 1. Captain was expecting a fine. Captain Cecchino received a fine from the Italian authorities for crashing the ship into the rocks. He was expecting to pay around $10,000, but the fine ended up being much higher than he anticipated. This caused him to become increasingly stressed and anxious, which ultimately led to his poor decision-making. He attempted to cover up the damage to the ship and tried to leave the scene without informing the passengers of the true severity of the situation. Unfortunately, this resulted in the loss of 32 lives and many others being injured. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more interesting topics in the future. Until then, stay safe and healthy.